Wrestling is the oldest sport in the world, and down in South Louisiana, we don't have it. Once upon a time we did. LSU wrestling was one of the best in the country. But now it is no more. There is a concerted effort to bring back the sport of wrestling to not only LSU, but the entire SEC. LSU wrestling must return.
Bring back LSU wrestling. It's time to bring back the greatest sport known to man. Folk style wrestling, American NCAA. We're here on LSU campus today, and we are exploring the world of Louisiana wrestling. We're going to talk to Phil Bode from the All-Star Wrestling Club. We're going to go to the LSU Wrestling Club. We're also going to look at some history with, like, I don't know, maybe a Tia, Kevin Jackson. Do those names sound familiar? We're doing all that and more today. Let's go.
Now, LSU does have a wrestling club now, which that's not quite a wrestling program, but it's athletes getting together and learning how to wrestle and learning how to be better wrestlers and be better people. So I got in touch with the LSU wrestling team, the LSU Wrestling Club, and I was like, hey, guys, let me do a video on y'all. Let me see what's what, let me see what y'all got cooking. And they were so kind to invite me, and I went to their practice, and these guys train hard. They train very hard, led by Dakota, the head coach. They've got some really good wrestlers. I think that this program is on the right course. First things first, I wanted to see how the program was started and what progress they were making.
Yeah, so we're in year 2. Last year, David and Sky started the program themselves. We're currently still a student organization. We're not official club status yet. We're going to go ahead and reapply for that again this coming off season. But yeah, so it's just been kind of word of mouth, using the Instagram, social media, stuff like that, to go ahead and build our program and just kind of see who shows up. And then whoever ends up showing up, whether they're going to come to practice, whether they're going to be part of the competition team, it's kind of up to them. But yeah, we practice twice a week, go over the basics of the basics, and have at it.
And Coach isn't in this for himself. He really does truly hope the program grows beyond him.
Long term, I want to see this outgrow me and get back to the Division I level. For now, it's about just getting each individual better. That doesn't mean national championship for each individual person just yet. But if somebody that comes to me and they've never been in a stance before, or they've never been able to defend a shot, or they've never been able to finish a takedown, if they can just start fixing those little problems, then that's success to me. Like, we don't need to be national champ undefeated just yet. Now in the future, absolutely.
Now, if you've never participated in a wrestling practice or never even seen one, it's quite different from a lot of other grappling arts like jiu-jitsu. Yes, there's live rolling or sparring, there is all of that, but there is a heavy emphasis on drilling. They make sure the technique is correct, they get their reps in to be the best they can be.
Half Nelson? Yeah, if he's turning into you, just put your arm through there and just draw it. And he's giving it to you for free since he's just picking his arm, trying to turn into you.
With Louisiana not having a program, D1 or even D2, a lot of local kids have to go out of state to find wrestling. But the kids here want to stay in Louisiana, or they've come to Louisiana, and they still want to wrestle, and this gives them the opportunity. James Baldwin is one such case.
After high school, I wanted to wrestle in college, but I decided I wanted to stay in state because I had a job lined up that I wanted to work throughout college, and I already have a lot of connections in Louisiana that I wanted to hold on to, and yeah, I'm familiar with the city of Baton Rouge and wanted to stay here. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, Louisiana, Mississippi, all like just right here in the South, there's really no wrestling, at the next level. And when I came to LSU, I ended up getting thrown into a group chat, and now I'm here wrestling with the club, and that's been great.
Now, James Baldwin qualified for the NCAA tournament last season, and he's returning this year to wrestle. His abilities and his talent helped the team improve. We also see Coach Dakota getting in there and mixing it in too. Having wrestled in college in the past, he has a lot of experience and stuff for these young student athletes to learn. But the time came and I was like, you know what? I do jiu-jitsu. Let me see if I can go in and hang in there with one of these fancy, schmancy wrestling club wrestlers.
About to get smashed. Somebody help me, please.
Yeah, that went about just as well as you can imagine. I went with, of course, James Baldwin, and guess what? I got smashed. Didn't stand a chance. Little did I know, James Baldwin was a state champion at Dunham High School in Louisiana. LSU did have a wrestling team, as I've mentioned before, and I went and tracked down one of their old wrestlers, Phil Bode, who is the head of the All-Star Wrestling Club.
All-Star Wrestling Club is led by Phil Bode. Phil Bode wrestled at LSU starting in their second year. Bode managed to start the All-Star Wrestling Club, a wrestling club for youth in the Baton Rouge area that are completely underserved. And Bode, what he does is make sure these youth have a place to wrestle. They have a room to wrestle in, to get reps in, even at a young age, from the age of 5 years old.
The All-Star Wrestling Club is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, serving the youth of the city so they can find a spot to wrestle. As soon as you walk in the building, you are hit with an authentic LSU wrestling mat from when the team was around. Phil Bode is the head of the club, and he speaks about starting the club.
Hey, I'm Phil Bode. I'm the director and founder of All-Star Wrestling Club here in Baton Rouge. We work with kids of all different ages, and this is our house.
Bode joined the LSU team in their second year.
Wrestled at LSU in 1969 through 1973. Came in as a freshman, wrestling the second year that LSU had a program. And that program in 1970 and 1971 won the Southeastern Conference Championship.
Bode would go on to give us a history lesson of the SEC.
Well, in the SEC, the most wrestling teams there were at any time were 7. I'm sorry, there were 8. There was only 2 teams in the original Southeastern Conference that did not have a wrestling team. Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Every other team in the original Southeastern Conference had a wrestling team, and they were very competitive, and they competed nationally. Some of them were good enough to go to Olympic trials. It was really a big deal.
He then goes into detail why it's important to have a program in state.
Well, if LSU brought back wrestling, you would probably have a minimum of 18 to 20 kids stay in state rather than going out of state to wrestle. That's 18 to 20 tuitions. That's people staying in the state for the purpose of becoming good citizens, working in the state, living in the state. We're losing those guys right now. We have what I would say is a wrestler drain, because these guys are having to go out of state to do what they do. And I'll point out a couple of guys that people would recognize right now. That's the Frost brothers who are wrestling for Iowa State University. They actually came out of Holy Cross. They would have wrestled somewhere in Louisiana if there was a college team. Instead, they went to Iowa State. Both of them are ranked in the top 10 in the United States right now, and they're going to finish very high in the NCAA tournament this spring.
And with these photographs provided by Phil Bode, you realize that LSU's wrestling program was deep, they were talented, and they were accomplishing great things. And in hindsight, when you realize that when LSU cut the program because of Title IX requirements, names like Kevin Jackson were on the roster. LSU wrestling truly could have been an elite program in the oldest sport known to man. And Bode is not the only one that wrestled at LSU. He's not even the most successful. There's names like Joey Attia, won a silver medal in the Olympic Games. Kevin Jackson won a gold medal in the Olympic Games. These guys wrestled at LSU. We've got talent. As a matter of fact, I got on the phone and I spoke with the Kevin Jackson to see about his time at LSU. Of course, we all know Kevin Jackson, Olympic champion, world champion, wrestled at Iowa State and LSU. I won't let you forget that. But there's also Joey Attia, who won a silver medal at the Olympic Games and achieved great things in the 80s. These two guys come from LSU wrestling. Of course, Kevin Jackson is the most famous person to come out of the LSU wrestling program, even though they cut it. He, of course, fought in the UFC, became UFC champion, but his accomplishments in the sport of freestyle wrestling are arguably more impressive. I got to speak to Jackson about his time at LSU.
Warm weather. I'm serious. Back in the day, I was trying to get out of Michigan, and so my top two choices were Arizona State and Louisiana State. And so it's a little different from kids these days with, you go because of the academic field or the profession you want to study. I was just looking to get some warm weather.
I asked Kevin Jackson how he ended up in Louisiana, of all places.
I already had some Michigan guys on the team, and so I already had some relationships, but definitely just the culture and just the difference between, Michigan and Louisiana was pretty evident, from the way people spoke to the food to, I was introduced to a crawfish boil early on in my college career. And so those things like that, being in the downtown New Orleans and spending time there too, as well as the swamp type atmosphere, definitely there's I wouldn't say a culture shock, but a understanding and a feel of definitely different culture.
Kevin Jackson spoke highly of the team when he was at LSU.
We were a strong team that competed against all the top level competitions. The team that was dropped, right, when we were finally dropped, we were ranked early. We were ranked going into the national championship as a team, 4th in the country. Well, I fell on my face, and our heavyweight fell on his face, and so we ended up not bringing home a national team trophy. But we were in a position to win a trophy as a team, and that says a lot for what Coach Shakatano did with that program.
Speaking about his gold medal, Kevin Jackson talks about what that brings to a school.
Well, I just think it brings a world-renowned recognition to their overall program when they have athletes that aspire to be the best in the world and go on to be the Olympic champions or world champions. So it just allows their athletics program to thrive even more and say that they've done some things at the highest level to help produce someone that's able to go on and capture that.
Jackson believes that Louisiana does possess the talent to compete in wrestling.
I mean, LSU had strong tradition for wrestling. I mean, we're a great program. Wrestling, we had great coaches, and also we were producing and wrestling at the against the nation's best and competing at the highest level. And so when kids see that and they're in their own state and they're close enough to home but far enough away, and the weather and everything else that Louisiana provides, it would have been a very, very difficult state to leave as a wrestler if LSU were one of those. I'm going to keep it to LSU. LSU had a wrestling program for sure.
So off we went to the LSU-McNeese-Xavier tri-meet. McNeese out of Lake Charles, Xavier out of New Orleans. All of Louisiana getting together for this. It's a blast.
This one wasn't hard to get to, guys. Lake Charles, 2 hours away. I got to see not just LSU, but McNeese, who's in Lake Charles, Xavier, who's in New Orleans, and LSU, a tri-meet. 3 teams, 3 Louisiana teams, and me as a Louisiana guy. Y'all know how hyped I was to be able to go watch it and film it. This is going to be exciting. Live at the dual tri-meet. Xavier here too. McNeese, LSU. Let's get on to some wrestling, guys. This is going to be a blast. We got together in Lake Charles, Louisiana, the entire team there, and they prepared for the tri-meet. McNeese and Xavier were going to show up, and it was going to be a fun day of wrestling that showcases Louisiana talent. The venue was small and quaint. That said, warm-ups began, and everybody got into the zone ready to compete against the best that Louisiana has to offer in state. As they got ready, I noticed some nerves, but everybody seemed comfortable in their position where they were at. The time to wrestle had begun. McNeese's program is very good, very talented, and they're coached very well. LSU competed well with them, and not every match went their way, but these things happen in this sport. That's just the nature of the beast. Of course, the guys at LSU wrestled hard. They didn't give up. They kept going forward, what you have to do in wrestling. But McNeese also was of the same mindset. They wrestled hard, they kept coming forward, and they wanted to win too. But all of the guys and girls, they wrestled fantastic, they wrestled proud, and they represented their school to the best of their abilities, which is all you can truly ask for. The meet was low-key, it was fun, and everybody got to compete and show off what they had been working on in practice. Hey, I got a message from some guys.
Subscribe to Fight Library.
Let's go! Now let's take a second and talk about the fastest growing sport in the entire United States, women's wrestling.
I think it's good to have some women representation in sports, especially to give them that confidence boost, and especially with wrestling, you feel like that mental mindset, like that mental toughness and like that not giving up. And, like, extreme, nothing's ever going to compare to wrestling. So if you do wrestling, everything else in life is going to be a lot easier.
That was, of course, Julia Bustamante along with Jessica Bristol, who are both part of the LSU wrestling team.
I like the confidence it gives me. I like how it makes me feel capable of doing things. Like, it makes me feel like I can go like run or do like somersaults.
Fly? So you can fly?
Yeah, like I don't know, just like moving my body and like.
And both Julia and Jessica were correct. Wrestling is incredibly important for these young women, the next generation of our young women, to have an example to look up to. And Jessica points out that she believes and she can achieve anything she wants through wrestling. So, if we're showing the next generation that anything is possible, only good things can come from it. And the way that these women wrestled, it's easy to believe. Now, the highlights of this tri-meet for LSU were Jessica Bristol, as you can see with her massive slam here, and James Baldwin. Those two went out and wrestled like maniacs. They put on fantastic performances and showed LSU can compete with the best of the best. LSU can compete with what the state is already putting out. Now, while I am a LSU guy through and through, born and raised in Baton Rouge, I found myself also rooting for Xavier and McNeese, two colleges that are also in my home state of Louisiana. That's not to say I wasn't cheering when James got these takedowns, sure, but I didn't want to see these other teams crushed like you would think in other sports. Instead, I wanted these students to learn and grow. And I feel like that's what is most important in Louisiana wrestling right now. Learn and grow and become a better student athlete. At the end of the day, that is all you want to see, to grow and become better.
So that's it, guys. It's not in a good spot. Let's be honest. LSU wrestling is not where we want it to be, which is D1 if we're being fair. We got a high bar here in South Louisiana. But that said, I'm optimistic. A lot of people are optimistic that LSU wrestling can make its glorious comeback with great names, with fantastic performances from everybody. We can see the dawn of SEC wrestling once again.